Right.
Let me know when you're ready and I'll start this, okay? Looks like it's already unmuted.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and call this public hearing on the tax levy to order at 5:17 p.m. Roll call, please.
Bradford, Hicks, Janeski,
Here.
Lynn,
Here.
Ludwig, here, Plattner, Smith.
Here. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 4, presentation of the proposed 2021 tax levy. Mr. Maynard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Welcome, everyone, and Merry Christmas to you and your families moving forward here this evening. I wanted to just kind of start out just to please accept my apologies in that I'm going to need to keep my phone kind of nearby if it goes off. I have been gone this past week. My father is in ICU in St. Louis, has been for about 10 days, fighting for his life with COVID and things like that. So I apologize for that. I think I've had a chance to get back to, even this past week, to all of the emails and the phone calls last night that have transpired in the last week. So thank you for your patience and understanding with that. That being said, I want to present the levy here. We've been talking about this since October. As you know, the routine that we like to do here is that in October, I'll start putting together some preliminary numbers based on assumptions and estimates that we get from the county. And then we do another one in November, which is a tentative levy. So that way, any updated information and that type of thing, we get out there. So we're being transparent with what we see that's going on. And then in December, like tonight, that's when we usually do I make the proposal of the levy to the school board. And so we've been working on a situation. We're in a unique situation here with a lot of conversations about the TIF that has been expiring. We've been talking about that for over a year. But today, I received earlier today some new information that has impacted the levy that we're presenting here tonight. So it's a little bit different than what you saw in November. And I haven't had a chance to really get the preview out to you tonight. So I'm going to talk through this and see, as a board, if you have any questions for me. Okay. I have had some meetings, obviously had a meeting with the finance committee prior to this. So coming in, so that way we would kind of be aware of how things are looking in terms of the budget cycle as well as the levy cycle. So some things that we know is that the Oakwood 76 school district property is located in both Vermilion and Champaign County. The majority of it is in Vermilion County, but we do have a section over near 49 there that is in Champaign County. And therefore, we have to file our budgets in the fall for the school district, even though we've already been doing our finances in July and August. We approved that budget, schools due in September, even though you're already moving through it. And that carries you through the year, and that is based on a levy that is done, prior to that. So everything that we're working with is based on assumptions. And knowing that we're in both of those counties, one of the things that I had further discussion this morning, I usually work through the numbers. I double check things with the county clerk's office. I talk to some professional networking constituents as well, double checking numbers. And I work with the Illinois State Board of Ed also. This year has been a little bit unique because of the TIF situation. We need to be in some collaboration and conversation with our village at different times, as well as some people involved with the township. So I make sure that we're all kind of working together and have the same information. That being said, this morning, after further discussions and investigations, it was brought to my attention that while Vermilion County is not a tax cap district, that Vermilion County is not a tax cap district currently, but Champaign County is a tax cap district. So this new information complicates the levy process for our school district in regards to a tax cap versus non-cap district. You're comparing apples to oranges when it comes to comparison with tax rates. So here's how this impacts us. we have a situation where Vermilion County does not have a tax cap lid, okay? Part of our revenue comes from Champaign County, which does have a tax cap lid, and both of those have different tax rate laws and different rates and estimates. That being said, over here, one of the things I've been concerned about is an issue that happened with the TIF expiring in a nearby school district not too long ago, where they were working with Champaign. They were fully in Champaign County, local school district. And that school district was working with the county clerk's office in Champaign County. And while they were working with them, Champaign County said to them, and this is all public information, so I'm not sharing anything that I shouldn't. You can Google it. But they shared with the school district, listen, you do not need to levy to receive that tax money this year because it's going to increase your EAV. It will be the following year. So then what happened was that information, people make mistakes, okay? And that's why you double check things and inspect and verify. But what happened was it put them in a financial bind. They were unprotected as a district. They lost a lot of money that should have went to their kids for education, and it didn't happen. So they came back to Champaign County and said, hey, you told us to wait a year, and we did, and now you were wrong. And so they start pointing fingers, and it's been a big mess. I was very concerned about that. I didn't want to follow. I wanted to learn from that situation and make sure that Oakwood, in our unique situation with the transition of the TIF 1 from the village that's expiring December 31st, and we don't follow suit with that kind of error. So I want to make sure we're being a good steward with our finances and all that we're doing because we're healthy financially. We want to stay that way. What I learned today is that, so that's why we put out that we were potentially thinking there could be casting a net of an EAV of potentially 105 million, which would be a little over 13%, which is above the normal 4.99 or the nickel levy that we do year in and year out, okay, as far as our ask. And that's what the levy means. That's what we're asking for, and then the county clerk's office will determine through the treasurer what we actually get later in the spring. And it's always less than what you ask for, okay? So with that being said, what I found out today was that because we are a non-capped primary district in Vermilion County, we do not have to levy to capture those allowable funds to say, yes, we would like to receive what's allowable to us and protect the school district financially. We don't have to do that. That was new information for me, okay? However, if we were in Champaign-only county, we would have to levy for it, and it would take a referendum in order to bring those funds in. That's how the two are different. So what makes it a challenge for us at Oakwood, we have both of those going on within our levy, okay? So I know it's complicated. I'm trying to hopefully explain it fairly well, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that may come up, but that has a huge impact on how we levy. So once I found out that this morning, which is new information at kind of the midnight hour, this information, along with the fact that the Village of Oakwood TIF expiring on the 31st, brings attention to additional revenue for the school district that we have not had access to for many years. What I learned today is that we're not going to have to worry about levying for it in Vermilion County. It will automatically fold into us money that we have not had access to for many years. Because that money was used in the TIF for the village to help build up the infrastructure and things that did its job of increasing the EAV for Oakwood, which I'll show you here in a moment. That has been a benefit to the entire community as well as the school district. Okay, so the plan has been working very well. But this is projected income to come to the school district in the fall of 2023, not the fall of 2022. That's what I've been told, and I have that in an email from the Vermilion County office, okay? So I have it in an email saved for us. And so we were informed we did not have to levy for this EAV growth and this TIF money since we are currently not a tax capped Vermilion County. However, the governor, the thing we have to watch for legislatively, the governor, I think we're all aware, is pushing very strongly for a tax cap in Illinois, okay? If that ever happens, and that's a game changer, we would have to levy, we would have to referendum to receive that monies that should be coming to our school district that has not been used. The other thing that happened with tax cap is that you have to watch where you're at in terms of your prior levy because it impacts what's called your debt limit. And that's basically the amount of money that you're allowed to borrow. Okay, so moving forward in future with future projects, building, construction, that type of thing, you've got to make sure that basically moving forward, you don't put yourself in a situation where you're at such a low rate that that's your lid. You can only borrow 1 million versus 6.5 million if you needed to for some reason. So we have to watch moving forward what happens legislatively with tax cap for the state of Illinois or Vermilion County. Right now, as we stand here today, the intro basically kind of explains where we're at. So moving forward, so tonight the levy proposal is basically kind of our traditional. We usually throw out a 4.99% increase. We don't go to the nickel. We throw that out there and say, with the EAV increasing, we want the 4.99. We'll throw that blanket out, and that way we don't leave any money on the table. Whatever is allowable to us and available to us, we will get. You don't ask for it, you don't get it. So that's kind of how that works. And then in the spring, the clerk's office will let us know in writing basically what we're actually going to receive, because we don't know. This is all a proposal that we are passing tonight to move forward. And many of you are understanding that. So that being said, when you're putting together this document, that's all new information, okay, that impacts everything we're doing. Other things that I have to look at in terms of factors and we have to consider as a school district is that, number one, is the state of Illinois fiscally healthy to make their payments to school districts? Okay, and the answer to that is no. Okay, we know that our state is not fiscally healthy in any way. So we always have to keep that on our minds when we're figuring up our levy. Is the state of Illinois funding school districts to the tier funding level for academic adequacy for our students? And the answer to that for Oakwood is no. They're not doing it for hardly any school district. That's not happening for us either. Now, when you think about the fact that essentially 40% of the revenue that we receive is some way tied into 35 to 40% of property taxes, and then you've got 60 to 65% with your state, the rest of it being federal dollars, it makes an impact on decisions that we make here. Does the school district have 360 days of cash on hand to meet payroll in the event that the state does not pay us what they're supposed to pay us? The funding doesn't come through. That is the goal, 360 days, that's basically a year. That's to say if a catastrophe happens and the state's not paying their bills and we're left here, we still got to have school, we got to teach children, we got to get them fed, we've got to get them to school, we got to pay our people. Having a year of surplus cash on hand makes that happen. We have been building that up the last few years, and we're roughly at about 120 days. So we're not really at that safest place yet. So that's a factor to consider. We have been maintaining balanced budgets for the school district, and we've been awarded for that from our auditors and from the state. The other thing you have to look at is your risk level continuum. What is the level of financial risk that a school district is comfortable with decisions that they make? What are they willing to do, not to do, and to commit to? So that's something you have to think about. I think you've learned that in my third year here, I'm a very conservative person. You do not spend what you do not have. It's that simple, and that's how you meet your budgets each and every year. We've been thankfully successful in that, and at the building level, everyone has been good stewards of that. So what's the goal? When you look through all those things, the goal is this: keep the property taxes consistent as EAV increases, and then property taxes can start decreasing slightly, okay? So I've got a diagram, I don't have it in front of me right now, but basically you think in terms of a tripod. This is your CPI triangle, okay? All right, and this is your consumer price index. Basically is your inflation stuff that comes out, okay? Typically that runs about 2.2%, so that's where everything sits. It's gonna go up in the future because we all are feeling the problem of inflation. But here's the level that goes across, the teeter-totter, so to speak, is you've got EAV on one side, your equalized assessed value. That's 1/3 of your property value. You got a $100,000 home, that's $33,000 basically for EAV. That's how it's assessed. Over here on the other side of the level is your tax rate. So here's how this works, is it's sitting on the CPI, which always pretty much stays the same for the most part. When the EAV goes up, your tax rate can decrease because you still are able to maintain the amount of monies you need to be fiscally responsible, pay your bills, and to provide what's needed for your children educationally. If you're in a community situation where the EAV is decreasing, then you have to raise the taxes in order to meet the same expenditures, okay? So I'll show you here in a moment a diagram that shows that we have consistently had the EAV on the rise. So let me pull that up here for you here. Good. Just a second. One of the things that I like to do, I'm kind of a history nut, and I like to know trends. And I like this document here. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but I'll just point out a few things. This is kind of my preliminary worksheet, but down here is what I like to focus on as far as some of the detailed information. So when you look at historical years, I go back to about 2013 actually, and I like to see the historical years. What's the taxable EAV been doing? What are the trends? Okay. And when we look through the trends here, you can see that in our Oakwood School District, that the equalized assessed value, our property values have been increasing slightly over the years. That's a good sign because again, as that increases, that allows us to keep the tax rate stable and then hopefully start to decrease it slightly. So that's an important factor right here. Over here, you've got the total tax rate extended. So you can see clear back in 2014, this total tax rate extended, that's your operating tax rate. Things like your ed fund, your transportation, your operations and maintenance, or your building fund, okay? But that's also inclusive of your bonds. But you do not have to figure in your bond debt interest into the actual levy that you do. But this tells you what the total tax rate extended has been, how that's figured out over the years. So you can see that we've maintained some real consistency over the years, okay? And you'll take a look at this year, what we're looking at, instead of the, the thing that alarms everybody, okay, is that when we were thinking prior to this new information, we were looking at the 13% potential increase of EAV. The law requires you to put a black box indicator out there in the paper. You have to do it between 7 and 14 days, and it has to, that black ink has to be a certain width and everything. It's very detailed. But when you put that out there, because it doesn't happen often, it's alarming to people because they start looking at the percentage and we all start thinking, well, does that mean my taxes are going up 13%? And it is confusing, and it is. And but that is only the 13%. That's for the EAV. That has nothing to do with the tax rates because tax rates are set statutorily except for free funds, okay? So this is where we're at as far as the tax rate extended maximum, okay, is what we're looking at. 4.99, which keeps us under the nickel levy. So technically you don't have to do the black box now, but we already did it, so we're covered. So we blanketed ourselves in a good way there. And then I like to look at the operating tax rate, how it compares from last year to this year. Last year was 4.42. This year is 4.35, so it's a little bit less. This talks about our debt, okay, loss of debt here. So at the end of the day, the historical change, what we are predicting and assuming is that we essentially could have about an extra $120,000 more that we would need to levy for compared to last year, okay? So how do you come up with that number? Well, that comes up through all of these different funds, looking at your expenditures and your budget. Things you have to figure in is that, the majority of your expenses are related to salaries, wages, benefits, and those types of things. Obviously, your educational services that you provide. But the tax rate on this actually goes down, okay? It actually goes down a little bit from last year. So not enough to really matter that a whole lot. It's kind of the same situation. So let me, I wanted to pull up that historically so you can see that information. So that's good news. Let me flip to the sheet that I just had here for you. All right, so just kind of running down through here, I'll just do a quick synopsis of this one for you, and then we'll see where we're at in terms of questions. One thing's for sure, if you want to get some attention, you want to get people's attention, you want to have people show up to your board meetings and get popular really fast, put a black box in the newspaper somewhere, and you'll get a response. All right. So what we have here, this just talks a little bit about the counties that we serve in. As we thought, this is the form that we actually have to work for the state of Illinois. Last year, what was actually the prior year, the taxable EME was 91. Okay, Champaign is in here. You can see that's a smaller amount. Anticipated change moving this year. This includes any new building projects that would come up in the community, which is about $484,000. That takes us from 3.5 to 4.03% anticipated change in the EAV. That's pretty normal for us. We're usually right around 3 to 3.5, and then you figure in your extra building. So projected EAV dollars based on this percentage would be 95 versus the 105, which we were originally working with, and that's the change. Okay, basically a $3 million there. So at the end of the day, what we're looking at here, the big picture, and the thing that everybody is most concerned about, how does this impact me? Basically, what we're looking at, the total levy increase that is being projected percentage-wise from the previous year is at 4%. The aggregate level levy increase is 4.47. That's pretty common and that's pretty standard with what we've been doing year after year to maintain those numbers. So that keeps us in a situation where we're not exceeding, the nickel levy and that type of thing, and we're still able to meet our bills. So down here, you've got total EAV, numbers moving across that I talked about, okay? Now I want to show you something a lot of people aren't aware of, and I think is important to note. I know that you on the board are aware of, especially people like Mr. Janeski, but these rates that are here, those are statutory rates that are set. Those aren't rates that I come up with or I make, and these are the maximum rates that were extended. So in the previous year, you can see the maximum tax rate for our largest fund, which is the Ed Fund, is 2.52. And you can see what was actually extended. Again, you ask through the levy, what actually gets extended to you later is usually a lower number. So you always have to ask for a little bit more to meet your bills. This is the tax rate. Again, you can see it's exactly the same, okay, moving forward. Same thing happens through all of these funds. Moving down here, operations and maintenance, it's the same. Debt services, that's a different one. That's pulled out separately. When you think about bonds, bonds are for buildings, levies for learning. That's how I always think of it, okay? But the two still come together in terms of bringing in your income and what you have to pay for. Okay. For your debt services, the reason that we ostracize this is because we have to ask for whatever it is we actually need. So like last year, to pay off these bonds that we've had for several years that we worked to consolidate to refinance recently, and I know we just took out a $3 million working cash fund bond as well. So we got two bonds out there. Payments are going well. Rates have not went up. Everything is staying the same moving forward. We needed $666,000, a little bit more, okay? So you ask for what you need, you don't need anything more. It's the same thing this year. Our payment this year will be $674,708. So that's what you asked for. Transportation, the rates are set there. Last year we had 183. This year it looks like we're going to need 190 and 886 for that. Okay, these are the big funds, your ed, your O&M, and your transportation. And keep in mind, transportation, as we know, you usually only get about 80% reimbursement if you're fortunate that year. IMRF is a little bit different. Municipal retirement, we get the levy for what it is our actual cost is. And if you remember last year, we dropped that way down because that fund was getting a little bit too healthy. So I worked with our auditor to find a healthy way to pull that back down. So they were happy about that, which we did. But next year, based on IMRF, we're gonna need $172,000 to pay those bills. Capital improvements, nothing there. Working cash, you normally get a levy, it was 45 there, it's 47 this next year. Tort immunity, that's another fund where basically you get what you ask for. That's all of our liability insurance, that's our workman's comp. That's covering supervision situations, any type of risk, legal mitigation situations the district can find themselves in. That helps pay for those bills. So whatever it is we need, we ask for. Next year, it looks like an extra 3,000 roughly is what we would need to meet our budget. Fire prevention and safety is set. Was 46 last year, be 48 this year. The leasing levy, that's actually has to do with technology. That is pretty much the same. It's up a couple thousand. Special education was at 36, be at 38. That's up a couple thousand. And we don't do much with these other ones. So at the end of the day, when you take a look at what we're proposing, and I know this is a lot, but it is important what we're doing here. What we look at is, this is the totals previously, okay? This is the operating tax rate. I like to know what is our actual operating tax rate moving forward. Last year, you see it was 4.42%, okay? 4.44% based on some of those increases for this year. So we're still well under the levy. I think it's a pretty conservative and a pretty tight levy. But I still think it casts the net wide enough that allows us to capture any extra funds that will be out there, because keep in mind, that's what we're asking for. It doesn't mean that's what we're going to receive in the spring. Okay? So that's a lot of talk, and you all have been very nice, and I appreciate that. One of the things I did want to remind you of that I have done is that I also filled out a grant with the State Board of Education. It's the property tax relief grant application. Every time that comes available, I fill it out for our school district. So that way, if we were to get awarded, we haven't yet, not too many school districts nearby have. If we were to get awarded that would essentially be able to abate $661,000. That's a lot of money. So I always look at that, takes me 10 minutes to fill out that grant and submit it and then see what happens. I haven't heard anything back yet, but I will always fill that out on behalf of our school district and our taxpayers. That will basically be a grant where basically they would give us that money and we would not have to ask the taxpayers to pay it that year.
But does it, I assume it allows you to, it's a one-time deal, whereas the following year, it doesn't penalize you for not having that money
That is my understanding.
levied. Because otherwise, you're still bound by the 0.05.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I'm just gonna take a break. I know it's a lot of information, and we can get as deep as you want to get and everything, but just like to ask any questions the board may have, like the finance committee. Yes, sir.
You only have one TIF district, is that correct?
There's two, but one expiring, right, Clay? I think that's right. We got TIF one that's expiring.
There's two. TIF one expires December 31st of this year. So those funds we dispersed to the village in 22, and then in 23, then that is when those funds will be dispersed to the other taxing bodies.
Okay. And there's a second TIF district?
Yes.
You know when it expires?
That one's pretty far out
I
still.
think like 18, 19 years, or 18, 17 years from now.
Okay.
So
I
it's
think it's like 2035 or
Yeah,
something
it's
like that.
quite a ways out.
Are you absolutely positive about the TIF money being automatically awarded? Is that absolutely true is what you're saying?
That's what I was told today, because we are not tax capped.
Can spring legislation revert the idea of how that happens?
Well, you know as well as I do, they make changes pretty fast. We're not supposed to have the availability to those funds of the TIF until fall of 2023.
That means a lot of time for legislation to be passed that changes how that's done.
Yeah, we gotta watch that carefully and closely this next year in case there are changes. What are your thoughts on that?
I've never had a TIF district.
Mhm.
I've never known how that money was redistributed once the TIF expires. So listening to this is kind of interesting with the idea that you're telling me that it automatically goes to the tax, it's split up between the other taxing bodies.
But that was new information for me today, Mr. Janeski, because I was always under the understanding, okay, and in the conversations that we had to levy for it. That's why I've been talking about this.
Where did that information come from?
Well,
The assessor's office, the clerk's office?
that information today came from conversation I had with a township individual, as well as a village individual, as well as previous mayor that was involved with that. We just talked a little bit about it earlier tonight. We got here.
Would it behoove us to be absolutely assured of that, to actually talk to the actual assessor and see what he said?
I'd be happy to reach out to Matt Long.
I mean, I'm just looking at it and saying,
Yeah.
if that's not the case, and we've been directed the wrong,
Sure.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's been my caution all along, just making sure that we are capturing what needs to capture.
Because
What I'd like to do is-
that money that we're talking about is not part of your levy. And I'm looking at it thinking, I'm worried about the assessor when he looks at your levy, actually adding that money to your levy. Although you're looking at a year down the road for that.
I was told by Robin Heffer, who is county clerk. She told me that I was levying a year early. Okay, for this TIF money, which was contrary to what some of my conversations were, a year ago when I started working on this.
Well, my problem with it is solely that once you don't do it, now you really have to have a pretty heavy truth and taxation hearing to go back and recoup the money that was part of that. And I don't know whether or not that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it is possible. I think, I would try to get some, if it would help the board, I'd be happy to reach out to Robin Heffer to get something in writing that even firms up more these conversations.
I think that would be good.
Okay.
Can you tell me what the amount of money, and you got another question, but can you tell me what the amount of money is with that TIF money?
Well, tonight we were talking, Clay, you thought it might be around 189,000, is that
Well,
right?
Now, listen, I'm not talking any way representing the village whatsoever, because I'm not in office at all right now.
Sure.
Um,
I've had different numbers. I've had numbers presented to me 150 to 300,000.
when I walked out as mayor, that we received about 190,000 off of that tip.
Okay.
Okay, so, and we got it in 2 installments, what we typically get each year.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, of course, that wouldn't be all coming back. 190 wouldn't be coming back here. That'd be split between fire district, library, township, school district.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe more
Airport.
80.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole works. So
Right, sure.
I think I have another question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm Lindsay Light. I'm the Chief Deputy County Clerk.
Okay.
I was coming in capacity as a taxpayer tonight. However, the conversation just steered another direction. I brought a copy of the ordinance for the TIF with me, saying what dates it expires. That way, if anybody wants a copy, I'm more than happy to provide that to you. And then it's also in the TIFs in statute that if there's any money left in the TIF at the end of 2022, after that distribution is done, then the village would actually be responsible to redistribute that money. It's not on our office. So the levy comes to us and we don't have anything to do with the TIF until we change the tax codes for when this ordinance says it expires. Does that help?
I don't know whether it helps or really clouds the water.
I know.
Like I said, I'm more than happy, and I'm not, Robin's my assistant chief, and she's way better at this than I am. She's been crash coursing me in this for the last 2 days because I'm a taxpayer in the district. So, but she did provide me with a copy of the ordinance that I had that. I'm more than happy to share it. And then, in statute, like I said, I did research after talking to some people. I've had calls in my office all week for this. And we don't want to get in the middle of it. We will not give any, I mean, she did provide him with some numbers to help him kind of estimate. But we put a disclaimer on everything that says, we can try to help you make any estimation until your little heart's content, but we don't do levies for anybody. We can provide you with what statute says. We can tell you, we can pull an ordinance and tell you when the TIF would expire. But as far as telling you what to levy or giving some sort of an estimation on EAV or things like that, we won't do that.
Well, and I think the important thing to understand here is that Oakwood has levied this money for years, so people have been paying this tax for years, and all of a sudden, the TIF goes away. Now it's a matter of that same money can be levied. I mean, it's not like it's more money being levied,
No,
it's not
same
like it's less money being
Well,
levied, it's the same amount of money being levied. All Larry's trying to ensure is that this district gets what would have been its portion of what was levied for the TIF in the
Well,
first
then
place.
you'll need to be in this spot next year. So
Okay.
like, the way that Robin explained it to me was that essentially this was jumping the gun by a year. So, like I said, next, I mean, you go with what, he has his figures now. She personally by hand changes the tax codes. And so she will go in when the TIF expires, when she has the paperwork giving her authorization to do so, she'll go in and change those codes. And then at that point, if you guys wanted to go after some of that additional, then you would levy for that.
Okay.
Does that help?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank
what
you.
Robin had shared with me. She said, I think you're a year early, and she sent that to me in an email,
Yeah.
and that was helpful. She's been wonderful.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing at what she does.
Yeah, she is. I appreciate what you've done tonight. I would be interested in copy.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
That'd be wonderful.
And again, really quick, I'll say, the situation with Champaign County, you're looking at a tax supervisor who did that job for years and years and years, and then when administration changed in the election, it changed staffing. So you had a new staffer and a new clerk. Robin's been with us for years, and she knows this stuff like the back of her hand. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, board or public?
So I'm gonna ask a pointed question. We've had a lot of discussion, but as the superintendent, I want to make sure that I, as a member of the board, make the right decision as a fiduciary for the district. And number one, are we levying the right amount by the amount you have today?
I believe we are.
Okay.
Okay, I believe we are. However, I believe, as was spoken, next year, we're gonna be levying more, and it's gonna be above that 5%. We will have to do a black box in the paper, and we'll figure out exactly what that percentage is. If it turns out that you think that you're actually going to be at, say, let's say 7% of a levy increase over this year,
Mhm.
then you're gonna wanna do a black box levy for, say, 14. So that way you make sure that you capture everything, because at the end of the day, you will only get what is available and allowable to you. You won't get any more, you won't get any less, but if you don't ask for it and it's available,
Mhm.
you don't get it. Does that answer your question, sir?
That's perfect. And the increase we are looking for this year is in line with the rest of the years previous to this.
It is.
The one thing, can you go to the second document, please? I had trouble seeing the bottom line.
Was that the historical one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let me switch to that here. So I'll switch from the state document here. I'll switch over to my worksheet. Is this the one, Mr. Smith?
Yes, precisely.
Do you see more the top or the bottom?
The bottom.
Okay.
The total tax rate extended, I'm having trouble seeing those numbers.
Okay. Let me make that a little bit larger here.
I couldn't tell if it was a 3 or 5, and that is a 5.
It's a 5.
Is that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
My apologies.
Nope, and I just, the 3s and the 5s look very close.
Yeah,
And so I can see, and everybody can see what that number is. We're looking at a lower number.
yeah.
Okay.
And two, in all fairness, to the board, I've not had all these extra columns on the sheet passed in front of you. I've added it in since our last meeting just because I'm always looking for more information and more data.
Actually, when he figures most of this, it's usually A times B equals C.
Mhm.
And A is your EAB,
Mhm.
B is your tax rate, C is your levy,
Yes.
your extended levy. And the extended levy, you usually know, the taxable EAB, you usually know, the tax rate is usually the variable. That's the thing, it always depends upon what your EAB is.
So hopefully our EAB will just continue to keep moving forward and that will help us, moving forward as well. So I did want to defer, see if there's any questions. I have the privilege of working with two financial experts, Mr. Plattner, as well as Mr. Lynn. I didn't know if there's anything that you had a question for, you wanted to add, or anything related to the levy tonight.
Just to reiterate Mr. Janeski's point, the percentages that we apply for our tax rate, they're mandated to us. They stipulate those. Those don't change. So our slice of the pie and how much of the pie we get is constant and stagnant. When the size of the pie gets bigger, our portion, 5% of $100,000 is less than, it's half of 5% of $200,000, right? So even though our percentages that we're asking for don't change, when the size of the pie goes up, our levy goes up. So we're not getting anything more or asking for anything more than we've ever asked for before on a percentage basis, if that makes any sense. Our levy increased, which means there's more dollars that are going to flow through this school district, but that's because the earned assessed value of all our properties and our taxing bodies in the district where we live went up. It's not because we're asking for more than we've ever gotten in the past. We're asking for the same thing we've always asked for.
There are smaller school districts within your state who receive 3 times as much money as you for $1 something per tax rate.
Right.
Simply because their EAB, even as a smaller district than you, is like $5.5 billion instead of 91 million. And it makes a huge difference. It's a variable that you can't ignore.
When our pie gets bigger next year, the amount of dollars that we will levy for will go up. The percentage of the dollars that we're asking for will remain the same.
Just so I feel really comfortable, and I think maybe you do too, would you just pick up the phone tomorrow and call Scott Watson? Because I think Scott has done this before with Walmart. Walmart, I think, was a TIF area. I think it left the TIF a year or 2 ago. I think he's already had to do this.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. I'm going to take one to study.
I know we had done the same thing a few years ago. Something had a TIF district as well. Mr. Holbeck will do that as well, so.
It's confusing. It can be very
Oh,
confusing.
it's
TIFs
very-
can be.
Very much so.
Any additional questions? Any additional discussion?
Thank you.
Seeing none,
Appreciate the opportunity.
we have a motion to adjourn this tax levy hearing at 6:01 PM.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Ludwig to adjourn at 6:01 PM. Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Plattner?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion for roll call vote.
Okay, we're on.
Ms. Curry? Yes. I'd like to go ahead and call this this December 15th regular meeting to order at 6:28 PM. Roll call, please.
Bradford? Yes. Janeski?
Yeah.
Lynn?
Here.
Ludwig? Here. Plattner?
Here.
Smith?
Here. As a reminder, everyone, we do live stream these meetings and do record these, so if somebody cannot make it, can listen to it later. Agenda item number 2, public participation and comments. I'd like to thank all our guests for coming tonight. Does anybody want to address the board? Thank you. Agenda item number 3, the consent agenda. I hope everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Plattner, to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Plattner?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item number 4, Mr. Maynard, do we have any FOIA requests?
We do not.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, the OEA report. Mr. Johnson.
Don't have anything specific. The high school was just started finals this afternoon, and the kids are excited to have a little time off, and probably not nearly as excited as the rest of us. So I don't have anything new for you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Agenda item number 6, committee reports. Board Policy Committee.
Just wanted to remind the school board, I know that we do have a board policy committee, but there's a lot of new adjustments and changes I put in the board packet that needs to be reviewed. So that way we can take a look at those and make a decision on approving those, hopefully at the January meeting. If you have any questions or concerns between now and then, feel free to reach out to me and I'll seek out clarification for you. Most of them are just little language items that don't really change a whole lot.
Thank you, Mr. Minor. Strategic Planning Committee. I know that met on December 1st. First, I want to say thank you to all the community members who have been involved in this. I know it's been quite a few meetings, but I think I've seen a lot of progress. I wasn't able to make the last one, but Mr. Maynard, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, our last meeting, I think, was our best meeting. I thought the discussion that we had and the progress that we made with Dr. Zabilka, Dr. Gary Zabilka was with us as opposed to Dr. Bolts for that meeting because he was ill, and made great progress. We have one more meeting, and they've actually contacted me to touch base tomorrow. The last meeting will be sometime in January, and that will be the finalization of the strategic plan to recommend to the board, which will include goals and discussions that happen at that meeting. The majority of the discussion at that strategic planning meeting surrounded a lot of different presentations on finances, communication, the Oakwood grade school junior high consolidation that's taking place. But a lot of really lively discussion took place on the future of and the needs of Oakwood High School. And so that was very, very healthy discussion as well. So it was a good night. Look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Agenda item number 7, administrative reports. District Curriculum Coordinator, Ms. Kimbrough.
Kind of piggybacking on the strategic planning committee, that's what was in my report. I had to do kind of what was purchased, what our needs are and things like that, so I included that in the report. So it's kind of nice to have discussion about that. Ending the year, amending all the grants again, getting ready for second semester, getting ready for spring, where we're gonna have to get a new math series. So I've reached out to vendors, trying to get a schedule together. Math testing starts in January, and then I can begin looking at the growth report for from fall to winter, and that'll give us some good data to kind of move forward in the spring.
Any questions for Ms. Kimbrough? Thank you, Ms. Kimbrough. High school principal, Mr. Odell.
You got my report. The only thing I would like to add is in upcoming events on December 18th on WITY Radio 99.5 and 980 AM. There will be an Oakwood holiday broadcast, which will have our band and choir. We're also going to have a virtual link to view the band and choir, since we did not have a holiday concert. So we want to feature those those students in there. And that is all I have to add at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Odom? Thank you, Mr. Odom. AD, Mr. Shelton.
You guys also have my report, and a couple of things I wanted to add since we submitted the report was that our girls basketball team got a big win over Bismarck last week, and our boys also got a win last night against Bismarck as well. The pit crew has been phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance to come to a high school game, it's electric in the gym. So come out and check it out. The pit crews have theme nights. It was Ugly Sweater Night last night. It's going to be Tropical Night next Tuesday. So come out and join the fun. Cheerleaders are doing a great job. Dance team as well. And both our girls and boys basketball teams are gearing up for their Christmas tournaments. And wrestling is off to a fantastic start as well. 5-3 so far for the year out. Just got a big win at Gibson City last night. And as far as everything else, we had to make a change to the girls and boys schedule. So now Tuesday night will be a unique night. We've got the girls varsity starting at 6, boys varsity to follow them on the same night at 7. That will be next Tuesday at Oakwood High School. So, and then lastly, just a couple of updates on some things. I also, part of my report was the pay scale on there as well. We talked about last month. Just want to make sure you guys had reference to that and suggested suggestions that both myself, Mr. Maynard, and also Mr. Little had a chance to look over. And then the last item was that we were looking at esports discussion. I had a chance to talk to some of the area and conference schools about whether they're going to try to field an esports team or not. I heard back from 4 other conference schools that are going to participate this year. There are several schools in the area and also in the conference that will not. They're going to set up this first inaugural year for IHSA. We do have an interested coach possibly to do that. We have interested students as well. And it would take some seed money to get that started in order to buy the equipment that we would need and possibly a coaching stipend based upon this CBA. But anyhow, that's all that I have at this moment. I should have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Shelton?
I've got a comment.
Yeah.
I've been to the high school and you're right, that place is electric. The band playing and everything, it's,
Yes.
after these year and a half or so with COVID and everything we've been fighting, it was exciting to see that place just absolutely rocking, and you guys have done a fantastic job of it. It was pretty exciting.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Junior high, Ms. Burton.
Good evening. You have my report. I'd like to add that our 8th graders were involved in a virtual career conference last Tuesday. 2 of our vets at DAC. Nick Chatterton spoke, ISAC, the Illinois Student Assistance people talked about SAT, ACT. They're also in charge of the FAFSA. And then they had 3 guest speakers. One was Dr. Miller from Westville, and he talked about education. And he gave us a shout out. He said, you might not think about going to education, but 20 years from now, you might want to be a Mr. Lehman. So that was sort of nice because that was through our conference. So Oakwood, we made the map again. Melissa from the health department spoke, and the kids sort of groaned because she's the one that sometimes allows them to be excluded, but now they get to match their face with the name, and she had a lot of great things to say about safety and health. And we finished that conference off with Jeff Weiss from the DAC IT group, and he's been there quite a while. So it was a nice opportunity for our 8th graders to start thinking about college and career and how they want to get into high school. And this is the first time we've had that kind of conference, and I'm excited to continue that. Boys basketball will start counting when we come back. Volleyball games will go, and we will select the spelling team. And it's exciting to have everything back and a more typical year. Kids are happy, and that's what we need to continue. We enjoyed a lunch from Mr. Mayor in the unit office. We really appreciated that on our early out. And I'd just like to wish everybody a happy holiday.
Any questions for Ms. Burton? Thank you, Ms. Burton. Grade school, Ms. Lepenis.
Well, we've had a fun month. I shared a lot of our different activities with you. We've had dress up days.
We've given lots of prizes away to staff members, and so I thank Lisa for putting that calendar together. She is the creative mind behind that. And I also want to give a special shout out to our PTO. Several people are back there. Most recently, they put on the buyout bash. The kids had a blast. We just did pictures with Santa, and they provided gift cards to the staff for the holidays. So we're very thankful for all that they do to support us at the grade school. And a second shout out to our Sunshine Committee, which is our fifth grade teachers actually head that committee. And that has been a great morale booster in the building. Wednesdays are very popular. We can all order our coffee from Madco, and the committee members pick it up and deliver it to us. So that's been a hit. And we've had snack carts go around to the classrooms, and we've had Jeans Day. So the OCEF has actually helped fund some of that. So we're thankful for that as well. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Any questions for Ms. Lepenis? Thank you, Ms. Lepenis. Assistant Principal, Ms. Acton.
Okay, I have my report, you already have it in front of you. You'll notice that discipline has increased just a little bit. As the year becomes more typical, we start to see more typical behaviors. And the excitement of the holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas around the corner, excitement sometimes turns into not great choices. So we also are working with our truancy. Heidi Allen from the ROE. We still have 16 families that we are watchful of and trying to put interventions in place. With that said, we are really missing having our SRO to make those connections with those students and to complete those home visits. It is such a critical relationship, and it's so helpful to administration, nurses, and the kids. So we've really missed that this month. I shared with you our positive office referrals. We still are having a lot more positive than negative. So it's great to see those kids come into the office for that. As far as basketball, tonight I was able to secure another sixth grade game. Villa Grove came and had a sixth grade only game, an A and a B game. And they were so impressed with our kids, our coaches, and our fans that they asked for the opportunity to come back. And so we have scheduled another January game for our sixth grade students. So Mr. Hunsberger and Parker Lee have done a really great job in helping facilitate that.
Any questions for Ms. Acton?
How many sixth grade boys are active on it?
Eligibility has been an issue. We're about 8 players that have been able to maintain eligibility consistently and stay with the program. But what we've done with the sixth grade, on the sixth grade only ones, is pull down some of those seventh graders that don't get as much playing time, to kind of help build their morale and keep them in the program.
Perfect. That's because I think there's 17 seventh graders, so
Yes.
that's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Acton. Technology, Mr. Richardson.
I got an email Monday morning that the company was going to be out to move the tower at the grade school. So Monday we moved the tower. I want to thank Mr. Burton for working with me on that because I didn't have it ahead of time. We were down about 3 hours in the afternoon at the junior high, but they worked through it. Everything's up and running now, having no issues, so that's good. The new line from that Comcast ran about a month ago has been great. Haven't had any issues with the grade school since they ran that line. So I'm crossing my fingers that was the problem there. And I also attached the technology presentation I did for the strategic planning meeting. So if I guess I'll just condense that into one thing. With all the ESSER money and COVID relief we got, we are in great shape for the next 5 to 10 years. So we're doing very good and looking forward to seeing what else we can do in the future.
Any questions for Mr. Richardson? Thank you, sir. Transportation, I didn't see Miss Lunt, did I?
She actually had to get out on the road to help with the situation.
Perfect. We do have a report. I saw that. Maintenance, Mr. Siddons.
Things are okay. Things are going good. The construction is pretty much, I think, they feel like it's pretty on schedule is what they're figuring. We have the North Drive shut down, so Lisa and Mrs. Lopez have both, it's been a real thrill trying to get everything, people in and out. But I want to thank them for being patient with us. Hopefully tomorrow it will be done, so we'll be able to start using it again. That's the storm sewer, the city sewer's in. So the next step will be start some footers. So we're gonna have a lot of noise around that, so, but otherwise it's going good. A lot of things are gonna be happening over the Christmas break. We're gonna try to start the kitchens in the home ec room. Not guaranteeing they'll be completely done, but that project is going to start over Christmas, so hopefully we can have something in January to show for that. So otherwise, any questions, be happy to answer.
No questions? Thank you, Mr. Siddons. Superintendent, Mr. Maynard. All right, let's start out with some good news here. So first of all, having a photo opportunity here. Tonight, I believe we have Amy Grissom and April Hack with us. Okay, those are, I'm sorry, okay. Okay, thank you. And our grade school PTO has donated $32,000 to add to our preschool for all grant that we've secured of $89,000. And we're bringing that money together with this construction project that's already on site to redo the playground area in the courtyard, as well as the surface. And so we're working through all that, but thankfully the PTO, I mean, I remember when I first came here, I heard about PTO and playgrounds. So it's just really exciting to finally be at a place where we can get this moving for you. So I just can't say enough. I want to say thank you so much for your generosity towards the school district and our kids. And I want to applaud you, and then I want to take a picture. Is that okay? All right, so thank you. All right, so I have the check here, which will get deposited here tomorrow. So if you wanted to you stand up here and just kind of hold that, share that, and I will get my phone for you guys with Mr. Smith. I will, this is going to be,
She's up putting in the picture.
all right, so.
Well, questionable.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Made a great picture, you could have kept Randy out there.
Exactly.
Crop that. They'll crop it for sure.
It'll be cropped out.
Does he want it?
Yes, that's the reason you got it.
I think he wanted it.
I thought he was just taking it.
He's stirring the pot while he's doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna work backwards here. As far as cash flow analysis, I apologize, I didn't get that done, being gone all last week. But you do have the treasurer's report, and those are aligned. And I'll have an updated cash flow for you in the near future. If I get one out before the next meeting, I'll be happy to send it out to the board so you can see that. School report card information, I just want to let you know, every year, usually in October, you get information on your school report card from the previous year. Been informed that due to COVID, they basically have kept everybody the same status as where we were before. We're commendable at all of our schools, like we have been, but they don't have any data, to really make a decision about where we're at, where we're not at right now. But the good news is we don't rely on their data anyway. We do our own data internally. through maps and testing that we do, that Michelle organizes with our principals. And that is what we use to know exactly where we're at and where we need to be and the benchmarks and so forth, and where the RTI needs to fall in. TRS supplemental savings plan resolution. Okay, this is something new legislatively that is required for school districts. We already offer to our employees the 403B benefit plan we have for years. This is another one of those plans that TRS has moved through legislation. We're required to pass a resolution, and so it's pretty standard. It's basically just saying that we are making this available to our employees. However, we haven't started this yet, but we have to have the resolution passed by January, we're told. There's a lot going on with this right now legislatively and kind of back and forth, so we've kind of been moving slow, but I think it's wise to at least pass the resolution that you saw in the packet, so that way we're covered, and then we'll wait to see the next move from the governor's office and
How long
TRS.
before this becomes mandatory?
What's that?
How long before it becomes mandatory for teachers to participate in the program?
I don't know. Right now, it's of course optional. They're pushing it pretty hard, especially for the new tier
I
people.
think they've done it for universities already, that's why I asked.
Yeah,
It's not mandatory to participate,
It's not.
no.
not yet.
So you have the option on your website that you can actually just set your default to 0. So it's just there for
Is it the
you
only option they have though?
to what?
Participate in this program, is that their only option?
No, they still have the 401A.
Oh, Diana's got.
That is
Okay, so you're asking if that 457 is optional?
Yeah.
No, it is not. Any new employee has to be enrolled in it. They have to sign a paper to waive out of it. But I have to automatically enroll them.
But they don't have to, they can leave out of it.
Yeah, you can choose to
They can
default it to like a
choose-
0.
They can choose to, but they have to sign the form to waive off.
Very good. So I'll be asking later as an action item, we would pass that resolution. Gradesville Construction, you kind of heard about the update. I am supposed to be getting weekly updates, Mr. Siddons and I, from Amoresco. That'll involve pictures and work that they're doing. As we get those, we'll forward those to the Board of Education so that you know as well. If you have trouble opening those pictures or something, let me know. School maintenance grant update. I've not heard back whether or not we, we're accepted for that grant or not for $50,000 in matching. So we'll wait to hear on that. Already talked about property tax relief. Last thing I have tonight, other than any questions you may have for me, just has to do with this last week. Again, while I was out for a week, I came back on Monday morning and there was just a lot of things that were going on, it seemed like. And I wanted to kind of share some of those with you as a school board. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for their patience. If I didn't get back to you in terms of correspondence as quickly as I normally do, my priority was and it still needs to be attending to the needs of my father who's in ICU. When I returned on Monday, there were a variety of concerns, had to do with the tax levy, which we've already discussed, construction and consolidation, gym needs, COVID guidance and procedures, and there were items that came up in regards to supportive and inclusive schools for all students. And of course, safety is a hot topic right now based on what's happened up in Michigan that just has us all heightened with alert and sometimes anxious. You're always assessing and evaluating, the safety of your school and your children and your staff. So that's kind of been a priority. I won't talk about the tax levy because I think we covered that one. As far as constructions go, one of the things that I've been working on this past week is parent concerns regards to disruption to the drop off and pickup. And then just some misunderstanding about where the money is coming from for this building and questions about the addition that we're doing and that type of thing. So I know we have talked about this a lot, but you just have to keep talking about it, because not everyone knows as much as we do about it. But just as a reminder, for public information, we received about $2.5 million to get the project started for that wing, which had been talked about for many years. And We borrowed 3 million to help cover most of the rest of the cost for that, okay, so which we've secured that. But the consolidation of the junior high and the grade school has been discussed as a goal, from what I understand here at Oakwood, for many years, so that the educational and human resources could be consolidated, as well as reduce cost of a building that would provide savings to eventually pay for the new construction in future years. And we saw that based on the data that Amoresco provided to us. I also, just as a reminder, I surveyed the junior high staff, and they shared with me the following concerns: unreliable internet, staffing needs that they had, lack of resources due to being isolated in an area out Newtown away, feeling devalued and isolated from the district because of their location, and had an interest in consolidation of academic and financial resources for our students, okay? All of these things that I heard from our junior high staff, I felt like are being addressed with this wing. I mean, we were just very fortunate this all came about when it did. But that's what I heard from them. Bringing the junior high and the grade school campus, I think, addresses those concerns. I know right now that there's some challenges that we have because we've got noise, we've got road closures, we've got, traffic patterns that are being disruptive, and we're dealing with those on a daily basis. And our staff has been wonderful, but it does create some discomfort, some growing pains almost for some people, and I apologize for that, but this is a temporary thing that we need to get through for the future. Gym concerns. With this consolidation, we have had a gym concern, I think, here from what I've listened and learned from our school board and community, has been here for many years. This is nothing new, but yet we are in a position now to start thinking strategically with our strategic planning, as well as I think this project we're doing with the grade school and the junior high has kind of helped get the wheels moving again and thinking through these things in the future for our kids in our community. We know we don't have enough gym space. And so I just want to let you know kind of what I'm doing, as a superintendent, to try to find some solutions to bring to the board with your help. We don't have enough gym space. We know for phys ed, for practices and games. It's a fact. The Strategic Planning Committee had a meeting on December 1st, and it's very clear that additional gym seems to be the main concern with the addition to the junior high and the grade school. We are not going to be losing the gym out at Newtown at our current junior high because we still own that property. It's still there. We would not want to tear anything down or anything of that. We have not even had those discussions because we still need more than what we currently have. But since that meeting, I contacted Amoresco and I let them know that we need to look at some type of design, location, and cost for some type of auxiliary gym at the grade school campus that would allow us to be able to do more in terms of practice and physical education and that type of thing. And so I just received a design from them. I don't have a cost factor on it, but it's a starting point. So I want you to know that I am working on that to try to get something to present to the board to see what direction you want me to go or how you want things to change. We're not looking at a big performance gym, but it's a way in which we can practice and fundamentals and that type of thing, and hopefully reduce 9 o'clock practices for some of our kids that need to be studying or home resting or family time. Once we get those options and those costs, I will bring those to you as a phase 2 build and present that information to the board and the community and see how we want to proceed and what are options with funding. We heard a lot tonight about concerns about taxes and things like that, but we've got to figure out some ways to invest a little bit in order to get a little bit, for our kids. So that's been on my mind this week. And then COVID plan for second semester. So I think the concern that we all share is that we want to make sure that our healthy kids are in school. All right. So right before Thanksgiving, I had the opportunity to meet with our administrative principals and our 2 nurses, which are here tonight, Sarah and Megan, our lovely nurses. And we had a lot of discussion about this. I had reached out, I'd done some research with the health department. I've done some research with the Regional Office of Education, because I wanted to know not what are people saying that they're doing in the county, but what's the reality of what's taking place. And I think I got some clear understanding for that. So in that meeting, I basically shared that my recommendation would be that second semester that we would look at adjusting our sales here a little bit in order to keep the goal of healthy kids in school. Meaning this, if it's a positive, that's a no-brainer. We know what we got to do. We're talking about the close contact situation. And so what we discussed at that meeting, and we had consensus on when we left, was that we need to get some communication together for the Board of Education, also for the Oakwood Education Association, and then for our parents, letting them know about an adjustment that we would like to make in our sales second semester. So if a student, I'm just going to speak very general here, I'm going to give the nurses a chance to speak and ask any questions, because they're a lot smarter at this than I am. But what we're saying is that if we have students who are in that close contact situation within our school walls and activities, that's what we control, not all this that goes on outside, okay? But we have a close contact situation. If that's been identified, then we want to continue to reach out to the parent, continue to reach out to the health department to make them aware that we've had a positive, we've had a close contact, but not sending those kids home right away, but then asking the parents. We're basically wanting to place the responsibility back towards the parents. Say, listen, your son or daughter may have been exposed, they've been identified as a potential close contact. Would you please monitor them? And in the event that they are having any type of symptoms or anything like that, would you please keep them home? If they're not having any symptoms, we don't want them to be home for 10 days. When they have no symptoms, they are healthy, and then we will bring them back into the school building. Okay? All right. I shared that very idea with the health department, okay, and also the regional office, so that they knew what I was thinking, to make sure I wasn't missing something. And I had support on that. And I was told that we are not violating any guidance by doing it that way, because we're still notifying, we're still reporting, okay, and we're still doing some contact tracing to keep things safe. So that was a conversation we had in the consensus. After that meeting, the nurses did some more work, and they put together, they took it to another level of test to stay, okay, program. So once that came to me, I think you saw I shared that with you, just so that you'd be aware of that as an option going into second semester as well. But we have withheld any communication because I feel like we need some discussion, and I need some direction. I think as a school district, I think we need some direction from the board on how you want us to proceed, okay, with this. So it's kind of the intro. Sarah and Megan, is that pretty much is that pretty accurate with kind of where we've been a little bit? Okay. So the nurses are here. You have the floor to talk to the board. The board, you have the floor to ask questions, whatever you want. Yes, sir.
We want to jump to agenda item number 8 for the discussion. Or do you have anything else for your report?
I'm sorry.
No, just so you're on a roll.
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm talking way too much tonight. Yes, so agenda item 8 technically is a discussion on the COVID plan for second
Nothing else
semester.
for your report?
No, sir. I'm
Perfect.
sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Trying to get my act together here.
Well, I read it, I reviewed it all, and I support it. I have no questions.
I read it, I support it. I think probably the issue is the vax students can immediately, they don't have to go back and have tests if they've been vaccinated. I think that's an excellent idea, and I also think that will help everybody out in this contract tracing. And so I support it 100%.
That's good. Do you guys want to see any of the documents that we put together as far as like information for the parents and the consents and things like that?
I've seen the,
We typed up a letter for you guys, but.
yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, but
It's
we've
been
done
shared.
more
There's
since we did.
There's a different letter for the parents that kind of, it's not so wordy, it's bullets and straight to the point, and
Okay.
You can take it home with you, you know, if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
sure.
you know,
That'd be nice.
and then I created a consent form, that will go into the parents, that they will sign so that we have it on file. That way we can just start immediately when something happens, we don't have to do anything.
So the first one that I'm passing down is the testing form for basically test to say if we identify the student as a close contact, then there's requirements from IDPH of when we have to test them. So that would be our way to track it and notify the parents. The next one that I've got here is just information to the parents to explain exactly what it is. Obviously, to be very clear, we would never test a child without written consent from the parent. If the parents decide to not opt into test to stay, then what we had decided is that they would need to be excluded. At that time, they can do the early release that we started.
Because Jesse has this information.
So it's
So
just
help
to a
it.
7 days solution instead of the 10, 14, all the things that we've done before. Or they can keep them out for 10 days if they don't want, because there's some people that choose to not have their children tested at home, that's fine, but they would have to be out for the 10 days. Also, we're looking at the biggest hit, I feel like right now, is in the cafeteria because the masks are off and we have to go 6 foot. So I know we've talked to all of our principals about any tiny thing that we could possibly do to decrease the amount of kids that we're excluding. So we need to do it. I know the parents hate it. It's finding that balance of doing what is right and making sure that we keep healthy kids in school and that we keep children who are symptomatic out.
My concern is this will go out to the parents when.
Well, we were hoping to be able to start it as soon as we came back, but since we wanted to bring it up to you guys and have a discussion, it's gonna take a little bit of time. We wanted you guys to look at the paperwork and then get it out to the parents. All of our forms are completed. What we would need to do is get the actual consent form out to parents. And the form that I had sent to you guys, there's a consent form that we have on there. So they would need to fill that out. And then there's also a different form from the company that we're using. We're using them right now to test our staff. So that's the same company that we're going to do to test our students. So what we're going to do is using rapids instead of PCRs. And our other goal is instead of requiring PCR tests for kids that are symptomatic, we're going to switch them to rapids. So we're going to see a significant increase in the amount of learning loss that our kids have been experiencing. But we feel like because we're going to utilize the test to stay, we are all still in complete requirements with IDPH, but we're just lessening that load more and more and not really increasing the risk of illness.
My reason for asking that question, and I hope I'm not interrupting you, is that when this goes out, the sooner you can do it, your life's a whole lot better.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we really wanted to start it as soon as possible.
If this goes out right, I'm of the opinion, don't make it second semester, make it immediate.
We have 2 days left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to get supplies.
Because
And we have to get supplies.
as soon as one person, you know it's gonna happen, as soon as one person is like, and then they see this, that somebody is vaccinated and you make them, in other words, not quarantine anymore, make them go home for 2 weeks or until they come back with their positive. So they miss 4 days of school, and then they see this after the kid comes back from a couple of days off school. That would be a concern. So I'm just saying.
Oh, I would love to start it absolutely immediately, but we only have 2 days left. So it's not realistic that we're gonna get all of our supplies and all of the consents from every parent in those 2 days. I mean, I think that we could probably get it together where we send out the information and the consents, and hopefully they bring it back at the beginning of next semester. And say Wednesday of the first week, Johnny gets identified as a close contact. Say we don't have the consent form filled out, but miraculously we have the testing supplies in. When that parent comes to pick up the child, I can say, hey, you don't have the consent for Johnny, would you rather him stay? And you can sign right here and I can test him. They can have that option. You know what I mean? So
Or if we have kids out on quarantine
and we get our, and we're waiting on supplies, because that's our biggest worry right now, is getting the supply. We can bring them all back as soon as we get supplies. But we didn't want to order supplies if you guys were not on board, so as we were waiting on tonight before we ordered all of these supplies and pushed this out to parents.
When you get the supplies and we think.
I think we could get it over break. Oh, yeah.
Good.
I mean, I would assume. I think we would. If I called him tomorrow, he's been very quick with our staff testing. The other thing that we would really like to do once we get all of this started is open this up for our staff. We can't open it up right away because we need to get our feet wet and we need to see how this process is going. But instead of our staff missing work, being able to have them, hey, I've got a runny nose, I've got a cough, I've got a sore throat, come into my office, let me swab you in 15 minutes, we'll know if you're positive or not, go back into the class and teach, instead of us finding sub-coverage, which I know or Lisa has to, working all hours of the night doing. So I really think that it's gonna benefit everybody, but it is going to be even more work on me and Sarah, so we have to have help.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've talked about here, obviously we created that COVID intervention position. We've not had any applicants since the other situation, that kind of fell through on us. So we're going to do whatever we need to do. If we have to hire a substitute teacher that is here full-time every day, and part of what they do is help support these ladies, I just told them to let me know what they need. Principals, if we need to have a sub on hand, you know what I mean, to help support with that. Hey, if you need me to help out on Mondays, I'll take Mondays, and somebody else will take Tuesdays. We'll figure this out. Try to help support that.
The biggest thing for us would be data entry, because as we researched and we went through this process, every single test that we do, whether it's positive or negative, has to be reported to the state. And it has to be reported to the lab that has our data number. So that's double documenting on top of what we have to document. So it's not so much if I have 5 third graders that need swab, that's not gonna take me that long. But doing all of my other duties and entering all of this into 3 separate places, we have to have help. I mean, it's impossible. So we're trying as hard as we possibly can to get these kids in, but we have to have help.
Yep, absolutely. So just be in communication with me and what you need, and we will problem solve. And, like I said, we'll all chip in to help out and sub whatever we need. Okay, I think this is a great plan. It's a great plan that you ladies have brought forth for our kids. It will keep healthy kids in school. It'll help our parents. It's more sustainable. And I think eventually, if we can move forward and get this for our staff, I think it'll help our staff as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great recommendation. So thank you.
Well, and the best part is we're still following the guidelines.
Yeah.
It's we are still crossing our T's and dotting our I's. And just to be clear, in case anybody has a question, if they are fully vaccinated or if they are in their 90-day window, this does not apply. This is only if people are not fully vaccinated or within a 90-day window of their COVID-19, of their own COVID-19 infection.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, actually, I was gonna ask you.
You're coming up.
Yeah, you're coming up.
How does is the booster by any chance gonna play a part into this?
Not yet. No.
Not yet?
We haven't heard anything.
Okay, I know that was the one thing, if you've gotten the 2 or whatever your shots, and then they're suggesting the booster, do you have to do that to then re-qualify for?
Not that we know of right
No?
now.
Okay.
We get on webinars with the state every other Monday or Tuesday, whatever. And so they give us kind of heads up like, hey, this is getting ready to come through. We have not heard anything like that. I will tell you, a lot of our staff is vaccinated and a lot of them have gotten boosters. And whenever they do, we take it, we document it, just in case that does come through. But there's nothing official yet. And we have more and more students that are turning in their vaccination cards. So that part's helping the contact, social distancing has been great. And I think our biggest thing is lunchtime and supervision and actual distance. I mean, that's what's really killing us.
Mr. Potter, before you go, just to confirm, you do support this?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do a straw poll with the rest, but I just want to make
Oh, yeah.
sure I got your opinion before we left.
I read it, and it looks,
Thank you.
it will help a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Sorry
we'll have
for
to
the
tweak it, but
Well, and there's always new things that come through, and I know that IDPH has talked about more changes too, but it's less.
I got
You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
increasing, I think
Right.
it's going to
Right.
decrease. So, do you guys have any other questions? So,
Sounds good.
okay, so.
nice job on it. It was thorough. Thank you.
We've heard, we know we kind of get the thoughts of the administration, OEA, Mr. Johnson, any thoughts for?
I had a preliminary conversation with Mr. Maynard about it and saw a little bit of it, and I did not see any issue with, I mean, because we're already following it even more, so this doesn't change, in my opinion, it doesn't change anything that we're doing already. In fact, it allows us for a little bit more room to continue to stay doing our duties. And I have zero concern with it.
Well, it should be less work on the teachers because they're not.
Yes,
gonna
and
have-
I think, again, I'm just looking at our first semester numbers and, you know, with everything that, I think teachers going through the more that we can keep the kids, and that's positive. So I really think that, yeah, I'm good with it.
Thank you,
Should
Mr.
help with that
Johnson.
extra burden a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what our hope is.
Yep.
That's what our hope is. So once the communication starts to move and we're getting ready to submit things out and get things together, I'll make sure that you get first look at it, so you're aware of it as a board. I'll work with the nurses on it, when we're gonna distribute that. That sound okay?
Yeah, that should be all the information that you receive, as long as you receive 4 different pieces of paper, that's all the information along with the rec form for the lab. And then once you guys are good with it, then we'll order supplies and we'll try to find some help and go from there and try to get it started as soon as possible.
So we really don't have an agenda item, but just as a straw poll, Ms. Hicks, do you support it?
Absolutely. I would prefer that they be able to get the go-ahead to order their supplies now.
Yep.
To do this.
Perfect. Ms. Ludwig?
Oh, I'm all for it.
Mr. Lynn?
You good?
You're good, Mr. Janeski? I am good. Please proceed. That's, yeah, it'll be good.
Thank you. We'll touch base tomorrow, Ms. Zindars, and it'll be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Whoever wants to come data entry with us.
Agenda item number 9, we do need to enter closed session. Do I have a motion to enter closed session at 7:15 PM? Second. Roll call, please, to enter closed session 7:15 PM.
Lynch?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was actually.
Started. Okay. Do I have a motion to re-enter open session at 8:14 PM?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, second by Janeski, to return to open session at 8:14 PM. Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Agenda item number 10, consideration action. Again, anytime we do a hire is contingent upon successful completion of a background check. Agenda item number 8, we have a finance committee recommendation to approve the 2021 tax levy as presented.
I have nothing new to add.
Okay. As a committee recommendation, it does not require a second. Do I have a motion to accept the committee recommendation to approve the 2021 tax levy as presented? Ms. Ludwig, any discussion on the proposed 2021 tax levy as presented? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig to approve the 2021 tax levy as presented. Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried, roll call vote for.
Agenda item 10B of a recommendation to approve the TRS supplemental savings plan resolution as presented. Mr. Maynard, do you have anything additional on that?
Nothing additional.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation to approve the TRS supplemental savings plan?
So,
Ms. Hicks, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ludwig, any further discussion?
Does that have to be voted on this evening?
Pardon me?
Does this have to be voted on this evening?
Well, I think we're supposed to have it placed by January 1st, aren't we, Dyla?
Are we?
So this is that last meeting.
Okay.
And everything that we've been following on this has been through the Illinois Association of School Business Officials. So we've been following them pretty closely as far as guidance.
Okay.
We've delayed this several months just because there's been so much discussion over it. I will need to get that document printed off and get signature on it eventually here.
You know anybody who's not going to go that direction?
I don't think legally you
Have to.
cannot pass the resolution.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
motion by Hicks, seconded by Ludwig, to approve the TRS supplemental savings plan as presented. Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion carried, roll call vote 5.
Agenda item 10C, Oakwood High School, we have a recommendation to approve Elijah Harden and Eric Hobbs as volunteer assistant coaches for the high school baseball team in the spring of 2022.
Elijah is an Oakwood graduate, and also a former player for Coach McFarland. And then also Mr. Hobbs, once again, is an Oakwood graduate, former military service member, who recently just returned to Oakwood, with he and his wife is also the high school secretary. So, glad to have him aboard.
Recommend you approve that.
Mr. Janeski.
Second.
Mr. Lynn. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Lynn, to approve the OHS baseball volunteers as presented. Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried, roll call vote 6.
Agenda item 10D, Oakwood High School, we have a recommendation to approve the hiring of Mindy Leonard as a long-term sub for Spanish during the second semester.
Yeah, Mindy is already subbing in that position right now. We have a maternity leave that she is filling. She is doing great. She's moved back from New York City. She taught at NYU. She speaks about 3 different languages. She's proficient in Spanish. Speaking wise, she can read Spanish. So to find somebody of that caliber is unheard of for us. So we are very happy to have her.
It's great.
Will she be put on the pay scale after so many days?
Yeah, what we do is we've got a formula that we use. Yep.
Do we know where she'll start on that?
I would have to look to see. I don't know how many days. Has she been in that role yet? Mr. Siddons or Mr. Ogle, sorry.
She's just started on Monday. was her first
with the
day.
Spanish role.
Yeah.
So usually, once they get into about 10 days, so we would probably start her on the full-time pay once we get back, then second semester, January 3rd.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at that to be sure, but essentially, we want to get it approved tonight so that she knows that she doesn't have to go somewhere else to sub. We've got her locked in, and we wanted to lock her in tonight, but we'll get that started as soon as possible because they get paid more for being a long-term sub.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation to approve the hiring of Minnie Leonard?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Lynn, to approve Minnie Leonard into the letter of employment as presented. Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call of 7.
Agenda item number 11, other new business. Any further discussion, Mr. Maynard?
No, sir.
Agenda item number 12, our next regular meeting is going to be held January 19th, 2021 at 5:30 PM. Do I have a motion? 2022.
There you go.
Hey, there we go. January 19th, 2022. Thank you. I don't want to go through this year again. At 5:30
I
PM.
heard that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn at 8:20 PM?
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, second by Janeski, to adjourn at 8:20 PM. Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call
Thank
of
you,
7.
Mary.
Yes. Thank